All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into something absolutely wild today. A fascinating, honestly kind of logic-defying journey into the extreme limits of human survival. We're going to be exploring these incredible medical mysteries that force us to question the very definition of life and death. And, we'll see exactly how modern medicine is learning to fight back against the freezing cold.
5.5. Just let that number sink in for a second. What if I told you that a man in the freezing region of Yakutia actually survived after his heart had stopped beating for exactly 5.5 hours? And I mean, he didn't just barely survive. He woke up, he was fully conscious, and he was eventually discharged without any brain damage whatsoever. Literally no way, right?
I know it sounds completely impossible. Honestly, I want you to just throw out everything you thought you knew about the biological clock of death. We're all taught that if the brain goes without oxygen for just a few minutes, that's it. Irreversible damage begins. The stopped heart is supposed to be final. But as you'll see, extreme cold trauma, it completely shatters that biological rulebook. Section 1. The Impossible Survivals. So, to really understand how this works, we're going to look closely at two astonishing medical cases. These are the survivals that literally force doctors to rewrite their emergency protocols. First up, Dr. Anna Bagenholm. While skiing in Norway, she had this terrifying accident. She fell headfirst into a frozen waterfall. She was trapped under the ice, completely submerged, with no pulse, for 80 minutes. Then, on the other hand, we have the Yakutsk patient. This was a guy who just fell asleep on a bench in brutal minus 37 degrees Celsius weather, spending over 5.5 hours in clinical death. Two totally different, terrifying accidents, but they share one unbelievable medical link. Let's just look at the timeline for the Yakutsk patient for a second, because it's nothing short of a marathon. Passers-by find him unconscious. 14 minutes later, the EMS team gets there and realizes his heart is in ventricular fibrillation, which is a fatal rhythm. What happens next is staggering. They perform 240 minutes, 4 straight hours of continuous CPR right there in the field, all before he even gets to an intensive care unit. Section 2. The hypothermia paradox. So, what does this all mean? How does a human body take that level of trauma without the brain just shutting down forever? Well, it all comes down to a really weird physiological quirk that we call the hypothermia paradox. See, at normal body temperatures, our cells are running at high metabolism. They're constantly demanding oxygen, and if they don't get it, brain death happens in minutes. But in deep hypothermia, your cellular metabolism just plummets. Your body is basically put into suspended animation. The cells become incredibly resistant to a lack of oxygen, meaning your tissues suddenly need barely anything to stay alive. It's wild. The exact same cold that kills you is what saves your brain. This whole idea is brilliantly summed up by Dr. Mads Gilbert. He's the anesthesiologist who ran the emergency room that saved Dr. Bagenholm. He explained that because her body had time to cool down completely before her heart finally gave out, her brain cells were effectively shielded. That is the exact reason she woke up with zero brain damage after 80 minutes trapped underwater. Section 3. The Marathon Resuscitation. Now, keeping the brain intact is only step 1. Actually reviving a frozen body, that is a highly chaotic, technologically intense battle. When the Yakutsk patient hit the hospital doors, his ECG scan showed this erratic, totally desperate electrical activity. His heart was in chaotic atrial fibrillation, his heart rate was incredibly low, and his blood pressure was critically weak. The medical team is quite literally trying to jumpstart an engine that's frozen solid. To pull this off, doctors have to deploy a massive medical arsenal. I mean, for Dr. Bagenholm, we are talking about a coordinated effort of over 100 medical staff working for 9 solid hours. They hooked her up to an extracorporeal bypass machine to draw her blood out, warm it up, and pump it back in. In the Yakutsk case, they used infusions of dopamine in warm crystalloid solutions, plus this highly specialized neurotropic therapy to protect the brain and central nervous system from secondary damage. Section 4. The Danger of Rewarming. Now, you might be wondering, why not just warm them up as fast as possible? Throw them in a hot bath, right? Actually, scratch that. That's literally the worst thing you could do. Surviving the cold is only half the battle. The thawing process itself is incredibly lethal because of something called the afterdrop phenomenon. If you apply rapid external heat to a freezing person, their blood vessels dilate. That causes all the ice-cold, acidic blood trapped out in their arms and legs to suddenly rush right back to their core. This drops the internal body temperature even lower and causes immediate cardiovascular collapse. So, to avoid this deadly afterdrop, doctors have to use a really delicate, agonizingly slow, inside-out warming protocol. Step 1. They use intravenous warm solutions, specifically heated to exactly 42 degrees Celsius. Step 2, they wrap the limbs in heat-insulating blankets to trap that cold blood and keep it away from the heart. Step 3, they gradually, slowly coax the internal core temperature up to 34 degrees. It took 4 hours of this painstaking process before the Yakutsk patient was even ready for full resuscitation. Section 5, the frozen aftermath. Okay, as miraculous as these survivals are, we can't just gloss over the physical reality of what happened. The medical protocols saved their minds, sure, but their bodies still took the brutal brunt of the ice. The aftermath is pretty stark. The Yakutsk patient sustained severe frostbite and tissue necrosis. His skin suffered deep thermal burns from the freezing cold, which meant he needed intense burn therapy, specialized dressings, and eventually skin grafts to repair the damage to his lower back and limbs. For Dr. Bogenholm, the personal toll was also devastating. When she woke up, she was completely paralyzed. Her kidneys and digestive system had failed, which meant 2 full months just living in the ICU. And most tragically of all, she suffered permanent nerve damage in her hands. That meant no more mountain biking, no normal cooking, and devastatingly, it meant she couldn't finish her dream of becoming an orthopedic surgeon.
Section 6, redefining clinical death.
But, she survived. They both survived. And when we zoom out, these 2 case studies have massive implications for emergency medicine worldwide. I absolutely love this perspective from Dr. Bogenholm. She says, when you are a patient, you're not thinking you're going to die. But as a medical person, I think it's amazing that I'm alive. She gets it better than anybody else. According to every textbook out there, she shouldn't be here. Her recovery is truly miraculous, but it's entirely grounded in this incredible science of cold metabolism. Which leaves us with this final, really profound thought. If the human brain can survive for 5.5 hours without a beating heart, under the right conditions, where is the true line between life and death? This kind of cold trauma has forced the scientific community to completely redefine what it means to be clinically dead. It proves that sometimes being frozen solid is literally just the beginning of the fight. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other impossibilities is the human body capable of?